Hello, everybody. It's Saturday. We're gonna be finishing off. Maybe, actually, maybe, just maybe, I might run another. I might try to actually finish off Lilly's route today in Katawa Shoujo. I feel like I could do it. It'll probably run a little longer than 2 hours, potentially, but we'll see. So, just before I get into that and show you the little surprise I got waiting for everybody, just 1 second. Alright, remember, our Viewer's Choice Monday poll is still up for about another day. So, get your vote in. See if what you want me to play on Monday. Republic Commando again, 7 Days to Die again, or do you want to see me try out Monster Hunter World on stream? Either, yeah, any of those are fine. If I don't get a decisive thing or a tie happens, I'll leave it to a wheel that I'll show on screen. Just so we know what our Monday will bring. So, in regards to what I had kind of planned and have in store, I was looking over how I was doing Katawa Shoujo, and I wasn't too happy with the layout. So I figured I'd change things up. It's not a huge change, it's not anything technically marvelous, but it's something I'm kind of proud of, because I managed to do it. So, I'm going to switch over to our new setup for it. Ta-da! This is something I'm actually really happy about. Now everyone gets to see the full screen without it being stretched and my face being in the way of the top left corner. And we get to see all the girls. I'm gonna have the one whose route I'm actually on highlighted. So obviously, in Lilly's case, she's in full color while everybody else remains grayed out. But when we do eventually finish Lilly's route, she will be grayed out. I've got that set up for each one of them. And I more or less place them in the order I'm gonna end up actually playing through. So that's fun. If I do more visual novels like this, where there's potential routes I can go down for specific girls or whatnot, I might just use this kind of layout again with something representing the route or the girl on the side, either colored in, grayed out, just so people coming in can actually kind of get an idea of like, okay, they're on this one. If I'm really thinking ahead, I could do something to check off on the girls once they're grayed out and done with their route, whether I got a good, bad, neutral end or whatnot. So yeah, that's just something I set up and I kind of like. It's a little better than just game stretched to fill whole screen. The text should still be legible for everybody watching. I mean, even on my little viewer here in OBS, it looks alright. Alright, so that was about all I had to announce for right now, so we're gonna load up our save. Oh my god, almost 14 hours! I'm actually gonna very, very quickly bring something up for myself. just so I know about where I am. Okay, cool. Alright, that makes sense for me. Nice. So we actually are pretty close to the end. I just wanted to be sure of that. So I will keep that there just so I know where I'm at. Alright. Loading up our save file. So, brief recap of what happened last time. We were on our vacation in Hokkaido with Lilly and Hanako. We were making our way into town, and we had a heart attack, almost. We damn near had a full-blown heart attack again. Because Hisao neglected his pills again. Well, not again. He just neglected his pills, so he was nearly on the verge of, dying. Hanako was too shocked to really say anything about what was going on. Meanwhile, Lilly is standing probably all of 5 feet away from Hisao with no idea of what the hell is even going on. Like, that's gotta be terrifying. I mean, she later then not that long after we get back and we're stable and fine, we end up confessing to each other. So, really, with that whole scene, the man she's grown to actually love was dying in front of her, and she had no idea. But we came back. All the better. Lilly and Hisao are a couple now. They are dating. And even Hanako's kind of starting to come out of her shell a little. She managed to join a club, the school newspaper, that's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, things are going pretty good. Lily's sister essentially gave us her blessing onto, them being together. So that's nice. So now we're just riding out the rest of the year, I guess. Alright. No more delays. Let's get into it. Stand unmoving in front of the door of the nurse's office for what feels like at least a dozen minutes or so. It's not like I never entered the small beige room before, nor is it because of any feeling of childlike anxiety over the visit. Maybe it's because the nurse's office is akin to a confessional, an admission that my body is flawed. Knowledge that such a fact is kept entirely confidential between the nurse and me hardly lessens the feeling. Remembering that the bell to signal the end of lunch break will sound soon, I give a sigh and open the door. The burden will stay with me just this while longer. Well now, if it isn't Akai, good to see you. Or bad, I guess, considering that I'm a nurse. He gives a small laugh, amused at his little joke. I find his humor lacking and somewhat off, but the fact he can make light of such a situation is perhaps comforting, or at least distracting. His brief episode of entertainment over, he claps his hands together and gets down to business. I take a seat as he gestures for me to do the same, or do so. Blah. I'm already screwing up. I wish the classrooms had seats this comfortable. I can feel my mind wandering as my eyes quickly scan the room, distracted by all the small changes since I last came. Last time we came, I think, was literally back in Act 1. When we first showed up to this school. Oh my god, man. Alrighty, so what brings you here? I haven't seen you often, so I assume your health's been good so far? Well, mostly. I see. The smile drops as I trail off. I feel slightly guilty about it. It's these moments where I can't rationally call myself normal that makes me so reluctant to see the nurse. They're an admission that I'm different from everyone else. While I was on a trip during the long weekend, I had a few problems with my heart. He hums very seriously and nods as he does so, urging me to go on. I think it was... Yeah, it was as I was walking a fairly long distance. I think the right term for it is a heart flutter. I suddenly went weak at the knees and felt almost like I was having a small heart attack. But it passed in about half a minute. Even afterward, though, I felt pretty fatigued and nauseous. Not good. Not good at all. That was how many days ago exactly? Did you do anything unusual aside from exerting yourself before the episode? Were you taking your medication properly? The nurse switches from awkward jokester to serious health professional mode, rattling off questions, making notes, and calling up stuff on his computer. I tell him about forgetting to take my pills that morning and the preceding evening. It was a stupid thing to do, but I can't change anything about it now, except answer honestly and bite the bullet. His seriousness evolves into a frown, and the talk evolves into an instant checkup. I finish buttoning up my shirt and again get motioned to take a seat in front of the nurse. Is this the first heart problem you've had since coming to Yamaku? I've had short pains in my chest before, just a couple times, but they were more discomfort than anything like this. He leans back in his chair, briefly resembling a white-coated... Poirot? What? Is that an art term? Is that like some kind of statue? I don't know. As he mulls over the mysterious case of the heart flutter. Moving his lips from side to side to show he's thinking, his non-existent mustache wiggling, he eventually comes to a conclusion. Well, you survived it. That's always on the plus side. I blink at this one, then notice the nurse wearing his got you face. It's actually somewhat reassuring. I don't think he would crack jokes if things were really serious, so I keep silent and take my lumps. I'll have a talk with your doctor, but right now I suspect it's simply due to exertion. Hey Jen, how's it going? Have you been keeping up with regular light exercise like I directed you to? I make sure to walk a reasonable amount every day. It's usually enough to work up a bit of a sweat, and then again, I'm not really as fit as I used to be. You're good? That's good to hear. So yeah, there's my layout in action. I can swap around all the girls for whoever's route I'm on. So when we eventually finish Lilly, she'll go to Gray. And I can say, like, turn Emmy on. So that's fun. I like this so far. Plus everyone can see the full game this time, not just, you know, most of it stretched out with my face in the corner. That should be enough then. The main thing to keep in mind is do regular low-stress exercise, not short bursts of sprinting and such. I understand. Since leaving the hospital, I've been a lot more focused on my studies, partly to take my mind off not being able to do more physical things. God damn it. Oh my god. You know, I can turn Emmy on. Oh my god. Oh. That's a good one. Yes, please, the add quote function is there for a reason, so please go ahead, use it. It's good to hear you're coping well. Sudden lifestyle changes can be hard at the best of times, so I'm pleased to hear that you sound like you have everything in order. Almost everything, that is. Nevertheless, I want to keep a close eye on you for a while, just for observation's sake. Just to make sure things aren't going downhill, you understand? That's something I really didn't want to hear. Since coming to Yamaku, all I've wanted to do is live as normal a life as possible. Observation was one of the words I came to hate most during my hospital stay. For so long, I felt as if I could just walk straight out of the hospital doors, if not for that observation the doctors wanted so dearly. Sure. Should I come in more often? He checks the calendar next to his computer, which seems to inflict on him a nasty case of furrowed brow. He spins back toward me after that. Summer holidays are a bit of a pain, considering the timing. I'll check with your doctor and try to get a better handle of the situation and see how he wants to proceed. But I think you just take things slowly and carefully for now. What you're describing doesn't immediately sound like a recurring event, but it won't hurt to slow down a bit for a while, just to make sure. What should I do for today? He looks over my shoulder at the clock hanging over the door. I'd never have noticed it if I hadn't followed his gaze. It's nearly time for school to be over, so you may as well just leave early. Gives me a sly wink, making sure that I understand he's doing me a favor. Well, nurse's orders. Thanks. That's what I'm here for, after all. I know you might not want to hear this, but you can't ignore your condition. Don't hesitate to see me if you have any further problems, and if you just have anything you want to ask. Bye. He spins around and gets back to typing on the computer in front of him. I suppose I'll just read before waiting for Lilly by the gate, considering I don't have much else to do. Even as I leave, his words echo in my mind. My condition isn't something as limiting as many others here in Yamaku, and I don't want to burden Lilly with thinking about it. If I just live life normally and avoid any short, sharp shocks, I should be okay. I won't let my condition rule me. Lilly comes into view soon after the bells heralding the end of the school day ring out. She says farewell to a number of her classmates headed in the other direction, before beginning her weekly trip to the convenience store. Afternoon, Lilly. The immediate warm smile and relaxed demeanor she assumes upon noticing my presence are unexpectedly welcome. Hello, Hisao. Good afternoon to you, too. She hesitates for a second, but eventually deigns to tilt her head forward and close her eyes. My lips meet hers with a measure of slight trepidation before we move off, hand in hand. The fact that we're so close in height is somewhat useful at times, there being no need for either of us to turn our head upwards nor downwards in order to meet the others. Yeah, I looked it up. Lily's like 5'7". So Hisao is probably 5'7", 5'6"-ish. He is my height. Yeah, she looks tall, but she's only 5'7". That's tall for Japanese, apparently. Because from Hisao's comments, she's probably the tallest person I've seen. Yeah, so I would be considered tall in Japan. I don't know how to feel about that. Meanwhile, I am like, just below average for here in Canada. And if it isn't obvious, Emmy is the shortest at 4'11". Jesus Christ. It doesn't take much time to leave the noise of the other students far behind us. The tapping of Lily's cane in her free hand, the only sound to be heard. Silence. Blissful silence is all that greets us while we slowly walk in the setting sun's light. Not a lot of diversity in height, to be honest. Yeah, they're all around 5-ish. Again, Lily being the absolute tallest and Emmy being the shortest. 4 out of the 6 girls are 5'2" to 5'4", yeah. I think I'm really coming to like this town. The huge, green, hilly expanse, the trees everywhere, the somewhat rustic little buildings.
So you've come to appreciate the tranquility of it as well?
I think so. I came from a metropolitan city near Tokyo, so the quiet of this town really alienated me when I first arrived. After a while, it became really nice, though. I think I prefer it to the hustle and bustle of my home city now. Gee, I saw a picture comparing them in the comments. Holy hell, Emmy is short. Yeah, not having legs does that to you. Oh my god! Oh, that's awful. I mean, the worst joke about this thing is, why'd they bother putting an option to disable the sex scenes? They're all disabled anyway. Har har har. Like, that's the worst joke from this game. They're already disabled to begin with. Ugh. But that's a new one. Ben Shapiro is 5'4". Yeah, but I'm not as successful. Clearly. "5'4", enlightened alpha male destroys 6-foot meathead lunk with facts and logic. Yeah, bring up the strength versus intelligence meme.
While I preferred the quiet of such a rural town even when I first arrived, I suppose the advantage of growing up in a quiet area I suppose I had the advantage of growing up in a quiet area before I came. Hanako said the surroundings are very pretty too.
Lily may say such a thing quite easily, but each time she mentions how others describe sights around her as beautiful or pretty, I feel a little put off. I notice her expression becoming one of anticipation for some question or another. She always had a good sense for when somebody's not saying something that's on their mind, so I may as well speak up. I need to point out that Hanako is canonically the same height as Vegeta. Yeah, Vegeta is short. We all know that. He's a short, angry boy that weighs the exact same as Astolfo from Fate. Yep. Yeah, and Vegeta is mostly muscle. So, where's where's all the weight in Astolfo? Well, the memes tell you exactly where it is. I was kind of wondering, how do I put this? Do you ever regret that you can't see what things look like for yourself? It's just something I've been thinking about. She thinks carefully for a time.
Do you ever regret that you can't hear people whispering on the other side of a room? I can only speak for myself, but the fact that I can't see is the only way I've experienced life. Just as I cannot do something you cannot do something that I'm capable of. The fact that the world is made for those who are sighted can be a pain sometimes. But there are many, many people who suffer much more than I because of the way the world is.
That does make sense, but still, it just feels kind of bad to describe something that you can't experience to you. She tilts her head quizzically, as if I just said something that makes very little sense at all.
But I can experience it. You just said yourself that you like this area because of the way the surroundings are. I like this area for the very same reason.
Bit loud compared to me? Okay. I'll turn it down a bit more. I had a feeling that'd be the case. When I do Lily's voice, it is fairly quiet. Plus, this track is also just kind of obnoxiously loud. So yeah, I'll read through this line, you tell me if it's better.
Thanks to the fact that this is a small rustic town surrounded by trees, it gives some peace and quiet away from the din at school and the bustle, not to mention the smells of the city.
How was that? Alright, good. I suppose it would also be much like the home she shared with Akira, at least, as well. Her outlook on it seems pretty sensible, and I'm not surprised she's got a much better handle on her particular condition than I do on mine. Just like how her coming from a location somewhat similar to Yamaku's surroundings let her become more acclimatized in a shorter time, being born blind affected her stance, by her own admission. I should stop being so annoyed with myself over it, but I can't shake the feeling that I've depended on Lilly far too much, given the circumstances most have had to deal with in Yamaku. I said that weirdly. Whatever. I keep trying to do this stuff in one breath, and it's not turning out well. That makes a lot of sense. You're pretty good at explaining, as always. Come to think of it, where is Hanako anyway? She was with us for lunch.
It seems she's busy studying. The exams are far from over, and she said she wants to do better this year than the last.
While I admire her work ethic, she's really been trying to give us a lot of room alone recently.
She's that type of person, I think. The kind that puts others' needs above her own at every chance. She's a sweet girl, even though so much has hurt her in the past. I don't know. I feel like it's only now, when she's less close to me than ever, that she's truly finding herself. It was thanks to you that she began to become more confident after all, not me.
take my hand from hers and gently place it on her head. The important thing is that you were there for her. I can't imagine what she'd be like without having found someone like you. That much became obvious while you were in Scotland. We're all still friends, so we just gotta have faith in her. I think she'll become a good person, and that much is thanks to you being there for her when she most needed it. Just as you were there for me.
It makes me feel a bit childish when you sound so wise.
Well, I try. Are you doing anything on the weekend by any chance?
Nothing that comes to mind. Why?
Then how about a date on Sunday? It'd be something to do besides exam preparation. Countering my rapidly beating heart, she simply smiles and nods.
That would be lovely.
Where would you like to go? Her face suddenly changes to one of disapproval.
You can't do that, Hisao. That's cheating.
Do what?
A gentleman should never ask a lady where to have a date.
Oh. Her smile quickly comes back, assuring me that she's far from serious. Do the emotional labor.
Don't worry about it. I'll think about where we could go.
I'll leave it to you then. I promise to decide on the next date, though. With our plans for the weekend made, the rest of the walk down the hill continues in silence. The prospect of that lasting for any length of time, however, is shattered as I catch sight of a familiar figure waiting for us, her hand held high. Yo! Freaking Akira.
Thank you. Please come again.
The change in temperature as I step outside from the convenience store sends a chill up my spine. Feels like summer's starting to wind down. Looking to my side, the same feeling seems to affect Lilly as well, though unlike me, she doesn't manage to hide the fact. Something I didn't realize at first was how physically delicate she is, even compared to the likes of Hanako. If I had to describe her, I'd have to say she reminds me of a China doll. Akira walks up behind her and gives her a couple of hard pats on her shoulder, much to Lily's consternation. Whatever the fuck that word means. Stop using a thesaurus! For a moment, she looks as envious of my status as an only child as I am of their close relationship. They talk between themselves for a few moments as I sort out my bags, their voices too low for me to catch, but eventually they break off and we begin walking back to school. Did I skip a double scene there? Nope, that's just a weird transition. Okay.
It feels good to be out of that damned office. You kids don't know how good you have it here. Kids. You too, then. Kids grow up so fast nowadays. You're not old enough to say that.
I don't know. Being around Hideaki makes me feel damned old. He's so precocious, he reminds me of you. Or, yeah, that's precocious, yeah. He's so precocious, he reminds me of you when you were younger.
He's a nice boy. It would be a shame if Shizune comes to have too much of an influence on him.
Kira gives an amused snort at her sister's antipathy. She really doesn't seem to regard it as anything to make a serious fuss about, treating it more like a childhood spat. She looks over to me, apparently only just remembering that I'm here, and gives a small grin as she reaches towards her back pocket. What is it? Just a sec. Let me dig it out. After quite some difficulty, she manages to retrieve her black leather wallet from her back pocket, quickly fishing out what looks like a folded square of paper. With Lilly all but unaware of what's happening, Akira unfolds the scrap and hands it to me. An old photo of what looks to be a younger Lilly and Shizune operating a noodle stall, with some other girl in the background. She looks vaguely familiar, but I can't quite pinpoint why.
What is it, Akira?
I think you know. Lilly mulls over this for a few moments before realization dawns on her. It's Toru Honda from Fruits Basket, obviously. I mean, of course. Who else could it be?
Akira, you really needn't.
Oh, I turned the music off.
It's fine, isn't it?
Besides, like the only photo I have of you two since you entered Yamaku, where you're not at each other's throats. I look back down to the photo in my hand. It does seem strange to see Lilly and Shizune working together so diligently without any sign of animosity. If the photos of them during Yamaku's festival, that means it must have been taken 1 or 2 years ago. In other words, the time when they were both in the student council together. Who's the girl in the back? She looks kind of familiar. Ha! I knew you wouldn't recognize her. It's Misha, before she went and dyed her hair pink. That's Misha? No way. Yeah, Misha is a natural brunette and just dyes her hair pink and also spirals them into drills. It's the curls that kill it for me. Yup. Yeah, so much work. Feels extremely strange to see Misha without her so very distinctive hairstyle. Judging from Akira's tone, she doesn't take favorably to Misha's idea of fashion. We'll get into Misha's idea of fashion when we eventually get to Shizune's route. Yeah. I suppose that fact just accentuates how odd the situation looks. To think they were so friendly in the past. I wish I could do something to mend their relationship.
You're being very quiet, Isao.
It just feels kinda strange to see you all so friendly like this. Lilly moves to say something, but stops herself. In the end, this isn't a matter for me. It's between Shizune and Lilly and nobody else.
Things change, unfortunately.
I hand the photo back to Akira, who sighs as she folds it up and slides it back into her wallet. A little memory, quietly hidden away, to be pulled out again sometime later. Yeah, that they do. Initially, I think Akira's reaction to be simply in response to the situation between Lilly and Shizune, but she looks oddly glum compared to what I'd expect. Lily's expression has clouded as well. What's wrong? It's just I'll be going to Scotland fairly soon. You're leaving for Scotland again? For a long moment, Akira looks surprised. It's an ill-fitting expression for her. After a glance at Lilly, she turns back to me as if she'd never done so.
Yep,
In a couple weeks, I'll be leaving for Inverness to work at the company's headquarters. It's a pretty big jump in corporate position, and it's not a chance it's gonna come again. So Akira's gonna leave Japan on what seems like a permanent basis. I can't help feeling that my assumption that we could all happily while our days having fun in this isolated little world is coming to an end. It's unsettling. I look at Lilly, mildly surprised he hasn't told me such a thing despite usually being so forthcoming. She continues to talk with her face fixedly pointed ahead. I can't read her expression, nor can I even guess what's on her mind, which is discomforting given how it's usually easy for me to do both. It reminds me of the time we met at the Shanghai, just before what could be called our first date. At the time, all I could do was comfort her without knowing the cause, and now feels no different. As we finally reach the school dormitories once again, there's a somewhat awkward silence. I don't think I'm the only one who feels it. See you tomorrow then, Lilly. Bye, Akira.
Good night, Hisao.
See ya. And with that, they walk to the female dormitories. Opening the door to the male dormitories, I stop and look back at them just moments before their figures disappear behind the heavy wooden door. That was a strange moment when Akira said she was leaving. While that wasn't the first time when my thoughts regarding my new life have been called into question, it's perhaps the first time to do it quite so profoundly. I still don't know what to make of Akira's reaction, much less of Lilly's. The night's chill reminds me to get back to my room before I catch something, my bags pulling down on my arms with seemingly redoubled weight. If nothing else, I have a date with her to set up for the weekend. I just need to stop overthinking stuff and get on with things as they are. The exams are still ongoing after all, and with the trimester's end and the summer holidays beginning soon, there'll be plenty to keep me busy for a while. Oh god, I can barely read today. Again. Every day I can barely read. Watch time? What are you trying to do, Jen? Supposed to say how many hours I've watched your channel in total. Oh, yeah, I don't have that kind of command. I could probably add that command later on. Probably won't be too hard to do. I do still have the follow age command. Though I think briefly unfollowing and following again to try to get yourself on the bottom corner may have reset your follow time. As I give a yawn and retreat inside, my thoughts turn to what Lilly will decide to set as the location of our weekend rendezvous. It's a default on Nightbot that should be on, but Nightbot is like that. And yes, as I followed January 27th. Yeah, good job. You reset your follow age. Oh, whatever. It's literally for 1 second. Yeah, unfollowed. I'm pretty sure this is about the last thing I had in mind when Lilly said she'd decide where to have our date. No man nor woman is dressed in anything but their finest, their formality only matched by that of their surroundings. Rich red wallpaper adorns the walls as the city lights far below flicker and glow. Combined with the ambient hum of quiet speech and the high-pitched clattering of cutlery and wine glasses, the mood is very formal, yet relaxed enough for me to not feel too uptight, despite this being our first real date. Once we get seated, our waiter leaves to attend to others with a quick bow, after an appreciative nod from Lilly. Far from depending on my help, Lily's managed to navigate herself around surprisingly easy so far, despite the unfamiliar environment. A light brush here and there, and she's generally quite deft at orientating herself as needed. My eyes look to Lily's. I can tell from her face that she's listening to her surroundings just as hard as I'm looking. Though, truth be told, my eyes are lingering on her each time they sweep across the room. I do not know how the hell to pronounce that kind of dress name. Can I get a little help, Chen? How do I pronounce it? Chong Sam? Okay, I'll go with that. I'll go with that then. The red Chong Sam she's wearing accentuates her figure very well and shows off her legs. Even her hair is done up, and the scent of perfume is just noticeable. Chong Sam? Chong Sam? Okay. While my black suit may be a rental, I managed to select an appropriate one. It feels surprisingly comfortable considering I've so rarely worn one, and fits the setting just as well as Lily's attire. I guess this is a new experience for both of us then. She turns somewhat sheepish.
I've never come to a place such as this before, no.
One hell of a first date, that's for sure. It's gonna be pretty hard for me to top this. A small giggle. Even now, our nervousness is dissipating. Dissipating. Yeah. For some reason, I thought there was an A in there. Her hand skates along the center of the table until it touches the menu, which she takes in both hands and brings to her face.
Hisao?
She lowers the beige laminated sheet just below her eyes. I can see another sheepish look. I doubt asking the waiter for a menu in Braille would be productive. I can read it out for you, no problem. I take mine and give it a quick read, my small grin faltering. Perhaps there is.
What's wrong?
There's quite a few items on here, and I'm not completely sure how to pronounce a couple of them. It's actually called Kipao, apparently. Cheongsam is the male clothing of that same time period. Oh. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's actually an interesting little tidbit there. Once again, learning something from you again. Yep, I'm always learning something. One fine cuisine after another is listed. Most may be in Japanese, but a few are in English and French. I guess it's to be expected, but I have no idea what's in some of these. Oh, this one I recognize. Wait, hang on. You can cook that? A small giggle of amusement comes from behind the paper sheet. Well, I could read them all out, but it'd take a few hours.
Is there anything with some kind of fish in it?
Let's see. No, 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 no. Aren't those poisonous? No, no, no. They eat that stuff? No, 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 no. Ah, here we go. A tuna salad seems to be a good bet. From the picture, it looks like it'll be pretty filling as well.
That seems to be a reasonably safe option.
Let's order 2 then. Pretty sure a couple of these dishes are from poisonous animals. I've had enough deadly run-ins for now. Lilly maintains a smile, but there's a distinct lack of laughter. Black humor mustn't be her cup of tea. Though to be honest, I don't find it exceedingly funny either.
There are certainly quite a few interesting smells wafting about. The same is true of the sights, I assume?
I've never been anywhere quite like this. A fancy Japanese tea house on an occasion or two. Never anything this lavish nor European in styling. Before another word can be said, a portly waiter in a distressingly tight vest appears at our table to take our orders. Provençal tuna salanicois, please. 2. Apologies. I hope I didn't mess up the pronunciation of that too badly. Even if I did, he doesn't show it.
And may I have a glass of Chardonnay, please? Misao?
Oh, the same. As the waiter nods and leaves, I suddenly realize what I said by absent-mindedly mimicking Lily's answer. I regret it pretty quickly. Alcohol.
Only a bit.
This girl has an odd propensity for getting hooked onto things, I swear. Surprising they didn't ask for identification. Then again, I guess we both do look mature for our age.
I'll have to take your word for it. I'll add that this isn't what I'd call the type of place to ask for such things, though.
Good point. Both relax a little into our seats, trying to take our minds off the choking formality of the surroundings. As soon as we do, the same waiter reappears at our table with 2 empty glasses and a bottle, the contents of which are quickly and professionally poured into the former. We both nod politely as he leaves, Lilly taking her glass and gently moving it from side to side. The liquid inside glistens as it moves around in the glass, and I have to admit, it makes me a little less regretful for ordering the same. I guess it must take effort to judge how liquid inside is acting based only on its center of balance. Maybe it's like her origami, taking every little chance to practice her dexterity. I guess I'm not surprised that you know about a place like this. Those who have money would, I suppose. Bro, you do not say something like that. You do not make assumptions based off of your assumed amount of wealth they have. Come on. This reminds me of just how completely different our upbringings were. And Yamaku, it's easy to forget about social and economic disparity between students all wearing the same uniforms, living in the same dormitories.
Well, Akira was the one to tell me of it. She's come here before, apparently.
So that's what they were conspiring about on Friday. And you chastise me for cheating.
That's not cheating. It's simply making use of personal contacts.
If you say so. Still, I get the feeling you're more familiar with this kind of restaurant than I am. She pauses a moment, a wistful look on her face before softly smiling. The compliment seems to brighten her mood.
You can thank my former school for that. If I were to peer any less, they'd be gravely disappointed.
She has mentioned her previous schooling before, but now I'm kind of curious. She seems to think a lot about her past, so I don't see any problem in asking. What was that like?
It was prestigious, all girls, and Catholic. These facts made my parents choose it for me. Many wealthy families sent their daughters there.
From how it sounds, life must have been pretty strict.
I wouldn't say it was a bad experience, but you're quite right. It was very strict. Thankfully, I managed to adapt well enough and make a number of friends. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for my sister. She found the atmosphere and religious aspects suffocating and ended up leaving for a job as soon as she was able to.
She gives a small, self-deprecating chuckle.
I shouldn't complain about it, though. Not many even have the chance to go to such a school.
Do you resent your parents for sending you there, then leaving? She gently shakes her head.
My family is highly patriarchal. My father, business always on his mind, was entirely lost as what to do with me. In the end, he had made the decision that my education was of higher priority than staying with the family. He simply did what he thought was best.
To say such things so easily. What an unbelievable girl. That said, I'm a little surprised she doesn't think her blindness played any part at all. Though maybe I'm being too harsh on her family. You're too kind-hearted, you know that? Most would hate their parents for something like that.
Well, some do.
Oblivious to my raised eyebrow, she takes a sip from her glass. The wine slips down effortlessly, her fondness for it evidently helping her deal with the flavor of alcohol. I can't say the same goes for me.
What of yourself? What was your schooling like?
Mine? Let's see. It was a fairly normal public school, I suppose. Maybe a bit busier than the norm. I did quite well in class and played in the soccer club. Since I'm an only child and my parents both worked a lot, I wasted most of my free time and money at the arcade with my 3 friends. No matter how much I played, though, I never did manage to beat Mai at any of those machines. Even Takumi and Shin lost to her whenever they tried. Then I'd be left trying to be the responsible adult when Shin and Mai fought. Again. Just the 4 of us, aimlessly enjoying our childhood. Those were some pretty silly times. I catch myself as I realize I'm starting to zone out. The days of my old school disappearing to the night sky and bright city lights outside the window. Lily's face is an odd mixture of curiosity and sympathy. Given her strict schooling, I suppose something like this would seem an interesting contrast to the only life she's known.
It sounds like your previous school was a lot of fun.
I'm not really sure how much of it is nostalgia, but there are some nice memories. That's in the past, though. I can't go back there now, but through my accident, I found a new life I'd never have imagined leading. The peace and calm of Yamaku, a new direction for my future in science, the friendship of Shizune, Misha, and Hanako, and most of all, you. More face touching. She gives a deep, genuine smile as she moves her hands toward me, her fingers just lightly searching out my face before softly caressing my cheek. Her hand reluctantly retreats after a second of warm silence, as we notice the waiter arriving with our meals. Lily does a deft job of covering her condition, except for the fact that her nod to him is slightly misaligned due to his silence. She really seems to work hard at appearing normal as possible in public. While I noticed it long ago, I still can't quite gauge whether it's a want to not be treated differently, a slight sense of vanity, or some mixture of both. The dish served lives up to the salad name, and the portions pleasantly large, with sliced eggs and tomato. It looks very enticing indeed. Lily takes her knife in one hand and fork in the other, quickly getting to work on the dish as I do. It's later than when we usually have dinner, so we're both eager to dig in. My cautious skewering of leaves and vaguely meat-like squares with my fork is matched by Lily's silent and measured prodding and chewing. An occasional tap around the sides of a piece of food to work out its edges is the only giveaway to her lack of sight. I'm done with my meal in little time, Lily taking the last few bites as I sit observing her.
Finished, Hisao?
Yeah, it was pretty nice. That much is very true. I never thought a simple salad could be so tasty and filling. Then again, I suppose that's why it costs so much to eat here. Content with my appraisal and evidently agreeing, Lily gives a small nod. You know, given that you're part foreign, exotic looking, and quite pretty, I'm surprised nobody's ever confessed to you before.
You're assuming nobody did.
The simple statement takes me off guard. I shouldn't be surprised, given that I was complimenting her just moments before. Really?
I've received several confessions, both in this school and my previous one. Adolescence is a funny time.
She's kinda talking as if she's above it herself. Huh. How easily you say such a thing. Lily looks surprised for a moment before a playful smirk covers her face.
Is that jealousy?
What? No, it isn't.
You're a bad liar, Hisao. You should take that into account. Then again, I do appreciate how sincere you are, even if you don't intend to be sometimes. I think your honesty will always serve you well when dealing with others.
I clear my throat in mock disapproval of this whole business and try to steer the conversation elsewhere. To tell you the truth, though, I do prefer solitude to being surrounded by others. I don't think I could maintain a social circle like you do. I'd like to point out something. She said she's received confessions at both Yamaku and her previous school. Her previous school being an all-girls school. Hisao didn't pick up on that. This boy, I swear, he is dense. She contemplates this for a moment.
I don't think that's true either. I've seen how gentle and caring you are around Hanako, and you get along marvelously well with others, even those whom you hardly know. I think you're quite adept at social situations. But on that note, what of your confessions, Hisao? I'm sure someone like you must have had at least one admirer.
Yeah, he did. It's why he's at this school. As I open my mouth to speak, I can feel my face turns slightly dour. At times like this, I secretly appreciate the fact she can't see my expressions. Just one. Her name was Iwanako. It was when she confessed to me that I had my heart attack, there in the woods during winter. Lilly finds herself speechless, not expecting for the topic to move into such an area. My condition has always been something of a concern for her, something that I strive to minimize despite my body's best efforts to the contrary. Afterwards, she visited me for a while when I was in the hospital. For weeks she came in and talked. It was usually just small talk or classroom gossip, but that was enough. But eventually, she just stopped coming. She was there every day, then every other day, then once a week, and finally one day, she just stopped visiting entirely.
Did you ever see her again?
Wrapped in my own little world, I shake my head before remembering the futility of the gesture. Alright, do I drop the subject, or do I mention the letter that Iwanako sent us? We've been kind of, forthcoming with her so far throughout this whole thing, so we're going to mention the letter. We're not going to keep anything from Lilly. Gotta move past it. You want to move past something, sometimes you just got to acknowledge it. The memory of that single letter Iwanako sent me comes back to my mind. I never saw her again, but after I was sent to Yamaku, she wrote me one letter. Lilly's face shows an expression I know well. I've piqued her interest. I'd be slightly offended that it's simply a matter of curiosity for her, but she's never been very good at masking her reactions. In hindsight, it really didn't say much. What was going on in my old class, how she was faring, and almost as an afterthought, that it was probably best for both of us that we don't see each other again. After reading it, I ended up reassessing a lot of things I thought I'd managed to work out. For the most part, that letter reminded me that the world around me was still moving, and just how much I'd become isolated from it. And I guess it also reminded me of what I'd lost. She gives the information some thought before her face lights up in realization. No doubt she's worked out that it was this letter which had contributed to my angst during that lunch on the rooftop. It's a rare sight to see Lilly quite so lost for words. Her entire persona is a little deflated from her earlier rapt interest. As charismatic as she is, in the end, that isn't any replacement for life nor relationship experience.
Perhaps it is better she sent it than not. How's that? It can be difficult to work out how best to communicate with those you haven't met in a long time. All the more so, considering your separate situations. Instead of doing what was easiest, she built up the courage to talk to you one last time. Not only for her sake, but from how it sounds, for yours as well.
Maybe. I don't hate her for it, not that I really ever did, but I don't know. Probably a more non-committal answer than I should give, but it isn't without cause. I've never looked at this situation from Yuanako's perspective like that before. Seconds pass in silence before Lilly speaks again.
Moving to Yamaku must have been hard for you, having your friends and even your girlfriend taken from you for no fault of your own.
The worst of it passed while I was in the hospital. All that surrounds you is 4 white walls and a small television. Your mind takes on a life of its own. It's like my old school, I guess. I just try not to dwell on what's happened and keep thinking ahead. All that reminiscing does is get me down, and it's largely thanks to you that it feels like things are finally getting back on track.
That's pleasing to hear, Hisao.
She lowers her face slightly, her expression pensive. I guess I went too far and embarrassed her. I suppose you went through something a bit like that. God damn it. Tongue-tied. How? How am I tongue-tied? This isn't a tongue twister. And I'm out of tea. Damn it. I suppose you went through something a bit like what I did when you first entered Yamaku anyway, right? I imagine the vast majority of our school students did, after all. You said yourself that you made friends in your old school. I can't imagine many followed you. Lily's deep smile drops, her expression unexpectedly darkening. Even her hands retreat to her lap. After a long while, she speaks.
Hisao, can you promise not to tell anyone else what I'm about to?
I promise. She looks slightly taken aback by my serious tone, but then relents and smiles weakly before continuing.
When I moved to Yamaku, I did regret losing the friends I'd made at my other school. But there was one person whom I most regretted not seeing again. He was the reason I took up English as a future career.
Me? Considering she came from an all-girls school, I can't have been a schoolmate. Then
I projected the confessions I'd received until then for him. Every time I improved my English skills, his praise was my most treasured reward. It's funny, isn't it? Someone like me able to boast about the people who have set Someone like me able to boast about the people who have set eyes on me, liking someone so utterly unattainable as my tutor. It truly is the most ridiculous thing. Did you?
She quickly shakes her head from side to side.
I couldn't. Even then, I knew it was impossible.
A silence reigns over both of us. This does seem to explain her ardent focus on her future in teaching English, but I can't help thinking of her confession to me. She lost him without ever letting her feelings be known. Does she somehow fear that would happen again, but with me? I don't really know what to make of it. I've heard of such relationships before, taboos born of such things as puberty and youth. The fact she had the good judgment not to act on it, though, is heartening. Yeah, she had a thing for her English teacher. Nice. Yep.
I know this must sound strange, but please, don't think of me.
Why would I think any less of you for that? To be honest, I think he must have been a very nice person if you liked him so much. Not only that, but you stopped yourself before going too far. For a moment, she looks somewhat lost. Most unexpectedly, though, it isn't a second before she starts to laugh. The sound takes me off guard. It's not a giggle nor a restrained chuckle, but honest and genuine laughter. I find myself smiling, and not just at her display of relief and happiness, but for her to trust me enough to let me see this most private of secrets. More face touching! Before I realize it, I feel her palm touching my face. Her touch is gentle as ever, with her thumb slowly stroking my cheek.
You're kind, Hisao. I really do love you.
Seeing her face like this, with her palm gently caressing my face, I think tonight has been a wonderful night. I guess we've both had pretty weird pasts, eh?
I think by most standards, our present is rather odd as well.
Oh hey, it's us? What? I smile and hang my head. This woman can easily run rings around me. Of that, I'm quite sure. Oh, the rare PC picture? Oh yeah. There's actually quite a few CGs that show off his face. I mean, the first one we see in the very beginning is him in the snow with Iwanako's back. So he gets pictured quite a bit. He has a very defined character, sprite and look. I look back around the room with its continuing quiet hum of patrons. This place probably fits into the odd category, too.
It is a tad overbearing.
That's one word for it, yes. I catch the eye of a scurrying waiter, a short, scrawny guy, no older than 20. Kinda reminds me of Kenji, though unlike him, the waiter isn't dressed for winter during midsummer. After a curt bow and an offer to remove our plates, Lilly asks for the bill politely and softly. With expert coordination, he maneuvers around the tables, our plates in hand, to retrieve our bill. In no time, he reappears through the doors, smartly handing our bill to Lilly, who promptly hands it to me, causing him to raise an eyebrow. As I read the small computer-printed leaflet, the cost is considerably more than I expected.
Isao?
Oh, I quickly stammer out the amount, to which Lily merely nods and reaches for her purse. Giving her card to the waiter, he disappears once again. That was a disproportionately large amount of money. The statement seems to make Lily slightly uncomfortable.
My family leaves more than enough for my education. The same goes for my sister, though she dislikes being reminded of that fact. That said, I too dislike throwing money about. But this one time, I think I can make an exception. Just for you.
Not only did you choose our date, but you paid for both of us as well. I take the bridge of my nose in my fingers. I can't believe how high you set the bar for our next date. She gives a small giggle. It's not a competition, man. Sometimes literally just slumming it on the couch is a date. You don't need to go fancy pants. Pizza and Netflix, obviously.
I'll be looking forward to it, Isao.
The waiter reappears beside us, as if by magic, and hands Lily's card back to her. Evidently picking up on her lack of sight, he places the card in her hand with an extra, perhaps unneeded, amount of firmness to make sure of her grip. Leaving, he exercises a measure of diplomacy by keeping a neutral face despite my own expression. Clapping my hands together, I stand up from my seat in order to bring an end to our night out. Shall we be off then, milady?
Jesus Christ, man. You don't say that. No.
No, miladies. Tips Fedora. Gah! I snap upwards out of my sheets and sit bolt upright in bed, as if an electric shock had just run through my entire body. The night air feels cold against the sweat on my bare skin, my breathing short and rugged, nearly to the point of hyperventilation. Mind racing, I bring my hand to my head in an attempt to soothe my body's panic state. It takes me a number of seconds to realize my hand is shaking violently, even as I press it against my face. More seconds pass in complete silence, my desperate attempts to subdue my body and mind slowly, thankfully, working. Gathering myself, I start taking measure of the state I'm in. Feels like I've run a marathon, every muscle feeling tensed and sweat practically pouring off me. I carefully direct my attention to my beating chest, measuring out the rhythm in my head. Sure enough, my unreliable heart is functioning properly for once. Just what the hell was that? A heart attack? A bad nightmare? Medicine side effects? I've heard about panic attacks, and this does seem to have the hallmarks for one. Can't even be bothered thinking about it right now. I feel utterly exhausted, yet completely awake after this experience. I look over to the other side of my bed, the pale white of the silent figure's face almost glowing in the nighttime darkness of the room. Just the sight of her is enough to calm me down significantly. Aw, they're having a little sleepover. Her graceful demeanor persists even while she sleeps, her perfectly measured breathing and gentle face making it impossible to tell whether she's awake or truly sleeping. Giving in to temptation, I delicately run my fingertips over her hand. Her skin is soft to the touch, as it always has been, yet warm even in the cold night. It's at times like this, silently appreciating each other's presence, that I feel we're closest. My fingers stop at her wrist, and I bring my hand back down to the bed beside me. I'm not entirely sure why, but as we become ever closer to each other, it felt as if something grew between us. I'm not entirely sure what it is, nor whether it existed before we'd fallen in love. Everything is moving so fast. I don't mind it at all, but it feels unlike Lilly to be pushing things this much. Thankfully, there aren't any students milling around in the hallways at this hour of the morning, lest I be interrogated on why I'm carrying 2 plates of breakfast to my room while dressed in an obviously hastily done uniform. That isn't to say things like this never happen, of course. A single security guard patrolling between 2 sets of bedrooms situated right next to each other is a very small force compared to adolescent hormones. Come to think of it, the fact it's Monday morning probably helps. I'm not really sure why, but Mondays seem to bother me less than they do most others. Takes a little creative use of my hands and elbow, but eventually I managed to work the door to my dormitory room open. Stepping inside, I see Lilly just getting up from bed and tiredly rubbing her eyes. She looks like a mess, just like most other times I've seen her soon after she wakes. She really isn't a morning person. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. She groggily shakes her head. The morning light illuminating her makes for a very pleasant sight.
It's okay. I needed to get up anyway. What time is it?
I put my plate down on my desk and turn the clock around to check the time. Still early. Don't worry, there's plenty of time left before school. She sits on the side of the bed and begins to sniff the air. As she does so, I quickly move her plate away and put it on the desk beside mine. Yes, I got us some breakfast. Shower and clothes come first, though. Bro, the only shower in here is a communal shower. Kenji will walk in. It doesn't matter. Dude will just walk in with no clothes on without care. You really want that? It's not co-ed showers. There are separate male and female dorms, but it is a communal bathroom for everybody. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no, the school don't want no hanky-panky happening so easily, yet, I mean, they so easily are able to spend the night a few times. And then there we got that. She stands still for a moment with her chin pointed slightly out. I gladly acquiesce and press my lips to hers, savoring the soft feeling before breaking off. With a small, sweet smile, apparently quite satisfied, she slowly makes her way to the showers. I stretch to try and wake myself up a little more, briefly looking at the steaming dishes on the desk. Rice, fish, miso soup, and some vegetables. A standard breakfast for a somewhat unusual day. That's one hell of a breakfast, my god! I grab the bottles from my desk and start taking my daily regime of pills. Sometimes I wonder what these things are even good for, given all the troubles I've had since the initial accident. I can't even say it doesn't hurt. I can't even say it doesn't hurt to take them, considering the side effects so far. CG of characters kissing pops up. Oh, and there, we've got that. Chuckles. Yep. Well, whatever. Doctor's orders are that I have to take them, and rationality suggests that it would be better served to trust his judgment over mine. Doesn't take long for the noise of the shower to cease. A quick one apparently being fine for Lilly, given the circumstances. Okay, does he just have a shower in his room too? Then why'd we go to a communal shower? That Kenji ambushed us in to get us, get money off of us for pizza. I am confusion. Emerging from the bathroom, she looks significantly more awake, having had the chance to collect herself. You're seen as dirty if you don't use the public baths every once in a while, right? Beats me. I have no clue. I don't know how that stuff works. Without a word, I gently take her hand in mine and guide her to my desk. Considering I don't have a table in my room as she does, it'll have to do. Or he and Kenji might just share one. 2 dorms with a shared bathroom is kind of bougie for schools, but not uncommon. But they're also across the hall from each other, and they're the only ones in the wing. And this isn't a and the dormitory buildings aren't technically dorms. They were just repurposed into dorms. So I don't know. It's a little weird. I don't know. Maybe the communal ones have hotter water than the private ones. I don't know. I kind of prefer a hotter shower to anything, and if I can get a hotter shower in one place compared to another, I'll go to that place. Maybe Lilly doesn't care because she's blind. Doesn't have to see all the ding-dongs. True. Also, Kenji is legally blind, and he can't see jack shit either. So really, the only one that would actually know something's up is Hisao.
Thank you, Hisao. What did you prepare for breakfast?
Just rice and some vegetables. Something fast. Her face lights up at the revelation.
That's quite a breakfast. Is this normal for you?
Now she's just being nice. I have little doubt, considering her past, that this isn't exactly a high-class meal by her standards. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Just because we're students doesn't mean we can take it lightly. That's my belief anyway. From what others I've talked to have said, I might be in the minority. I take a seat on the side of my bed and begin eating together with Lilly, her chopsticks lightly tapping at the outlines of the vegetables, just as I'd noticed her doing during our date.
This is quite nice, Hisao. I had no idea you could cook this well.
This time, she's much more genuine. I can tell that much. That said, cooking really isn't anything special at all. After a bit of practice, it's pretty easy to make a simple dish. Most of the credit goes to modern technology. Still, after years of cooking for myself, I should hope so. I got bored of eating instant noodles and ordering pizza every time my parents were both working. So I taught myself how to make a few meals. I'm still trying to get the knack of it though.
You'll make a good wife someday, Hisao.
Yeah, Hisao will be the wife. Take a grain of rice and place it on my thumb before carefully taking aim and giving it a good flick. Lilly jumps a little as it hits her cheek, right on target. I can't help chuckling a little at her expense as she lowers her brow and tries her best to assume a harsh and serious expression.
Oh, that's right.
What is it?
Did you have any problems sleeping last night? You seemed restless.
So she was awake back then, or at least partly so. Whether it was my heart or a nightmare caused by the side effects of my medication, the The last thing I want is for her to be worrying about me even more. Even before my relationship with Lilly, I'd felt my body was a drag on everything I did. My body is my burden alone, so as long as I'm with her, I'll continue to act as normally as possible. No, not particularly.
Is that so? That's good then.
Luckily, she seems to take me at my word.
Come to think of it, there was something else I wanted to ask.
Oh?
How should I put it? When you dream, do you see people and objects?
Yes, of course Oh. I feel more than a little sheepish for that slip of the tongue, however earnest it may be. Lily looks unperturbed, though.
But you don't taste, feel, nor smell things?
I move to answer, but find myself stuck before thinking about it. The more I mull it over, the more I realize that her hypothesis is correct. That's true, I guess. I never looked at it that way. Are you saying that you do?
For the most part, I only hear in dreams, but yes, sometimes I touch and smell things as well. I'm just asking since Akira thought it was very strange that I did when I brought it up with her. If you don't either, then maybe it's due to my blindness.
That would make sense. You rely on your other senses more than me, so maybe that affects your dreams as well. The wonders of the human body, I guess. For the rest of the time before school, we quietly eat the hearty breakfast in front of us, exchanging a few small pieces of small talk as we do. A quick peek out the door assures nobody's looking directly at the entrance for the boys' dormitories, so we walk out with the path clear. Weather's good today. As stretch as Lily and I make our way outside, the bright morning sun beaming down on us. By now, a few students can be seen doing the same, making their way to the main school building either from the dorms or through the main gate.
It does feel nice and warm.
Our hands linked and her cane tapping the ground, we begin in earnest our trip to the school building and join the chatting throngs of students around us.
This would be the last day of exams, no?
Yeah. How are you going in them?
Fairly well, all things considered. You seem a bit stressed by them, though.
Is that obvious, huh? I don't think it's just the exams, though. A lot of stuff's been happening in a short amount of time, and I'm not doing that well on the humanities subjects.
You're doing well in science, though, aren't you?
Well, it'd be hard not to do well in science for me. Come to think of it, didn't you say before you weren't very good at science or maths? Okay, so someone who wrote this section is from England? Because they call it maths? She suddenly looks very sheepish, my remark no doubt hitting home. Lily's sense of pride really can be a double-edged sword.
Well, aside from that, have you ever given thought to what you might do with that ability? It seems a pity to waste it.
Maths is a general UK thing, yeah. Scotland included. Yeah, remember, she wasn't raised in Scotland at all. Japan is her home. She's only visited Scotland. A bit. Mostly at Muto's prompting. In any case, I'll probably end up doing science as a career in some form.
That's good to hear, Hisao.
As we enter the gardens, I suddenly receive an unsolicited pat on the back. The green-dressed culprit dances around to meet me, evidently not paying any heed to Lilly at my side.
Hey man, what's up? I haven't seen you in a while.
Hey, just been busy lately with exams and stuff.
Exams, exams. A true Renaissance man needs no study to excel in such things.
Kenji does strike me as the kind of person that does well in school, even if he has a horrid attendance record and poor work ethic, so I have little reason to doubt his ability. To be honest, I'm a little envious of him. Between studying for exams and my time with Lilly, I've had practically no time to myself. Maybe this is a bit like how Yuko feels.
Good morning, Seto. It's good to hear you're doing well.
It feels slightly odd to see Lilly speaking so formally. She's come to address me more casually over the months, though I've seen her speak more formally to classmates from time to time as well. Oh, I kind of butchered that. Some people never change, I guess. Not that I'd say her calm and polite manner is a bad thing. It's one of the reasons I liked being around her to begin with, after all. Kenji seems to take a moment to work out who it is beside me, and probably hasn't noticed us holding hands either. I wonder if those glasses of his actually do anything.
Oh, hey Lilly. Good luck on your exams too. I'll see you after school then, man.
A slight edge to his voice makes me think those words are meant to be an imperative rather than a casual farewell. I guess I'll have to smooth things over later. Sure. See ya. Kenji nods curtly. He moves to pass by us, but he's too busy glaring in Lilly's general direction to take notice of her cane. Before I can try to react and save the situation, Kenji trips and reflexively reaches out for a handhold. Unfortunately, said handhold turns out to be Lilly's arm.
Whoa!
Both fall to the ground in a sprawling heap, with me left feeling rather helpless. Ah, damn. You two okay? Kenji quickly rises back up, seemingly unfazed by the accident.
No problem, man, no problem. This is nothing. My body could take much worse abuse.
Lilly lies face down on the grass. She doesn't look hurt by the incident, more startled than anything. I move closer to offer her my help. You alright, Lilly? Hey, Sato? Kenji offers her a hand, tentatively touching hers to let her know what he's doing. He says some odious things sometimes, but I do think he may be a genuinely good person at heart. I imagine he feels pretty bad about this. To his surprise and mine, though, Lilly pounds on the ground with her fist without warning.
Damn it!
Kenji freezes, entirely caught by surprise at her outburst. I'm just as shocked. She never acted like this before, not even around Shizune. Seemingly only now remembering that there are people around her, Lilly slowly climbs to her feet. Her face as she does so makes me retreat a little. I only caught a glimpse of her expression before she turns away, but it's not something I'll forget soon. She showed plenty of annoyance during her clashes with Shizune, but this flash of anger was something else. There's no way this is just about this petty incident. She pauses for a moment before sighing and walking on ahead. I really don't know what to make of this. I'll, talk to you later, dude. See you. Yeah, see ya. Kenji scratches the back of his head, trying to find something to say, then shrugs and walks away, giving us a wide berth. I quickly catch up to Lilly. She turns her head a little to acknowledge my presence, but nothing else. I should probably scold her for lashing out like that, but I also don't want to get into a shouting match with her. She's still very obviously annoyed. In the end, I keep my mouth shut and wait for her to cool off. After a quiet walk in, we eventually reach the top of the third floor stairs and the junction where we part every day. I turn to Lilly before she leaves. While I do like the comfortable and warm silences we usually share, this was anything but. I don't want to leave things like this. You seem quieter than usual recently. Is anything wrong? She shakes her head almost automatically, as if to dispel any notion that I need to worry about her.
It's just the exams taking their toll. I'll be fine.
I don't think that's the reason. I very nearly say so, but decide against it. There's no point trying to draw it out of her if she doesn't want to tell me, especially when she's in a foul mood like this. If you're sure, I'll see you later then. As I turn down the hall to go to my classroom, Lily's soft voice rings out from behind me.
Isao,
Yeah?
I'm sorry.
With that, Lily makes off down the hallway to her own classroom, her hands skating along the metal railings. I stand still and watch her until she turns into her classroom and out of sight, before going to my own class with a fair measure of reluctance. As usual, I'm early. Muto is fiddling with folders and papers on his desk as he prepares for the day, while a handful of students mill about, chatting away. While my feelings about Lily haven't dissipated, far from it, her mention of my exam performance did remind me that I have my own life's journey to attend to. After thinking about it, I have realized that I do genuinely want to pursue science in some form as a career, rather than it simply being the path of least resistance. Until now, though, I didn't have much of an idea of where in the field I wanted to go. Just science is a pretty broad category of jobs. Something Lily mentioned earlier focused my thoughts. Something I'd only idly pondered about before. I had not seriously considered following this specific path. I walk up to Muto's desk, his attention being too focused on preparing for the day's lessons to notice my approach. It's the same every day. Good morning. He looks up with an expression of mild surprise that's quickly replaced by his typical awkward smile. Good morning, Nakai. Can I help you?
Do you mind if I ask you something?
He looks down at his messy pile of books on the desk before putting down the papers in his hands and standing up with some difficulty to properly address me. That's what I'm here for, after all. Ask away. I was just wondering, what would you say is the motivation behind teaching? He thinks on this question for a few moments before responding, evidently far from having a prepared answer. If you talk to 10 different teachers, I think you'll get 10 different answers to that question. While I can only speak for myself, I'd say that I teach because... He sinks into thought again, carefully assessing the way he wishes to present his idea. Think of it this way. When you were a child, you probably played with sticks and pebbles in moving water, such as the gutter or puddles, right? Yeah? I think a lot of people do that when they're young. Well, it's not just when they're young for some, though it does take on another form. My point is, though, that when one is doing that, they're curious about how the water will flow or be changed. Everyone, even at that young age, possesses an intense wonderment about how the world around them works, even in its smallest forms. I still feel that sense of wonderment about the universe. Even just reading about new discoveries or classic experiments gives me a renewed sense of awe at how marvelous everything is, from the farthest stars to the smallest puddle. I just hope I can give others even a small piece of that wonderment I feel. Even if I can do that, even if it's just for one person, I think I can be happy as a teacher. He scratches his head as he mentally reviews what he said. I feel like I understand him better now. Even if he's awkward around others, he does have a genuine want to be around them and offer them a piece of his self that he values. What Lilly told me yesterday rings in my ears. I think you get on well with others, huh? She always did say I was unusually curious. Sorry if that was a little meandering. Does it answer your question? It does. Thank you. I also had another question, actually. Oh? What might that be? Do you have any college brochures or guides? It's about time I started getting some applications in. He nods and bends down to look inside his desk. As he does so, I notice he's wearing a remarkably genuine smile. I don't think I've ever really seen him act this natural around others. Perhaps this isn't Muto, the teacher, but rather Muto, the person. Here, if you need any more, feel free to ask. He hands me about half a dozen brochures and booklets of various colors and sizes, which I take eagerly. Yes, it'll be with this information which I'll use to forge my own future. I think now, after all this time and all these trials, I can finally start to see the big picture of my life ahead of me. My body may be like this, but my mind is still very much able. Thank you. He's starting to try and get his life together, which is nice. This is strange. That single thought has graced my mind a countless number of times since my life here began. It feels like an easy way to discard a troubling question, as if simply labeling something with those 3 words will make it go away, or at least not worth thinking about any further. My life before my heart attack feels more blurry every time I try to remember it, and my mind struggles to keep up with all the events suddenly happening around me since. I heard somewhere that this is what it feels like to be left stranded in a country with only the most basic understanding of the local language. Indeed, when I think about it, it seems a marvelously apt analogy for what's happened to me. Such situations are also supposed to make you very capable in that language very fast, as you're forced to learn it in order to survive. Put another way, the situation becomes sink or swim. I wonder if I really managed to swim after all this time. The exams are stressing me out a lot, even though they're finally coming to an end. But I have remained in Muto's favor, and I have some sort of direction for my future now. I keep using that stupid, meaningless phrase. This is strange. It really is amazing how fast one comes to accept being surrounded by people with sometimes incredibly jarring disabilities and conditions. So much so, I really wonder why I feel so much like a foreigner. Certainly isn't for lack of socialization or friends. I've come to know most of my classmates on first-name terms, and I know a few others around the school. Whether they're missing an arm or a leg, the students here are just like anyone else of their age. I can navigate the halls that I once lost myself in with ease I'd not expected to have, thanks to the school's logical layout, and can engage my teachers in comfortable discussion. I swirl around gently the tea in my cup, the reflected image of my face becoming distorted by the moving liquid. This is strange. I used to hate drinking tea. Maybe I'm thinking too much. The familiar sound of china rattling from a teacup touching an accompanying saucer rings out.
Is something the matter?
Don't worry, it's nothing. I take a long sip of the tea in front of me as the girls do. Just whiling away the time in Lily's room, sipping tea with her and Hanako, feels familiar, almost nostalgic. So, how's your work in the newspaper club going, Hanako?
I want to know too. It sounds like it'd be quite interesting.
Hanako's face turns down at the attention placed upon her, though her smile belies the fact that she generally likes being the center of interest for the two of us.
It's good. I think I'm getting better at it. Naomi and a couple of her friends handle most of the jobs, getting stories and stuff. I just do the computer things, like putting stories together and getting it printed. It's nice, since I can sit and concentrate.
I see Lily's low-tech nature isn't shared by Hanako. While sitting in a room compiling other people's newspaper articles into documents doesn't strike me as overly outgoing, it is heartening to see her widening her circle of friends. Baby steps, I guess. It's probably a bit much to be expecting her to become a socialite like Lilly.
How are you finding Naomi? I've heard she can be quite troublesome at times.
And Lily's going into her mothering mode over Hanako. Letting go of her is something she's had to learn. Hanako scratches her cheek, thinking on her answer.
Naomi's nice. She's a bit loud sometimes, and a bit tiring, but she's really helpful. Her friends are nice too. That's wonderful to hear, Hanako. I'm glad you found a source of such enjoyment.
Lily's smile is warm and genuine, but I can sense a touch of wistfulness to it as well. Hanako seems to miss that entirely, but I don't think for a second that I'm imagining it. I suppose it's because I've slowly come to pay more and more attention to everything going on around me. With things seemingly happening faster and faster, it feels like I'll miss something if I'm not as observant as possible. With the exams, my newfound love life, trying to fit in some studying regarding my options for college and university, and my heart condition applying the brakes on everything at irritatingly random times, my brain's been in overdrive recently. It makes me appreciate the rare quiet times such as these. I guess this is why Lily came to appreciate her weekly walks to the convenience store and her tea parties with Hanako. Despite her liking to be surrounded by others, they gave her a moment of peace in a chaotic and busy life. Thank God the exams are over, eh? The comment draws an earnest chuckle from both the girls. Seems like everyone's been a lot happier since the exams ended last week. So, what are you doing for summer holidays, Hanako? I quickly count the days in my head. Today's Monday, and school finishes on Saturday. 5 days to go, after all.
I was thinking of traveling. Just around a bit. There's a lot of places I want to see, and I think I have enough money to pay for the bus and train rides. Naomi and one of the other girls in the newspaper club said they might come along too.
Her look indicates she's given the matter quite a lot of thought. I'm kind of surprised that she's contemplating something like this. It seems she's really become intent on striking out on her own.
Is there anywhere in particular that you're thinking of going? I was thinking that Kyoto sounds nice. I think I'll try to go to a few places, though.
Lilly nods in approval, happy with Hanako's plans. While I cast my eyes to Lilly, I refrain from asking her the same question. She's been evasive with her plans for the future for a long time now, but I never seem to get a good time to broach the subject alone with her. Every time it comes up in conversation, it feels like she's either unsure of herself or simply dodging the question. It's troubling. Be sure to call sometime while you're out and about. I gave you my number before, right? Hanako gives a quick nod, a happy smile on her face. Strange to see how happy people become. Strange to see how happy people seem to become when they have a goal to work toward. Yuko seems to brighten whenever her university aspirations are brought up, and Hanako is just the same. So why do I feel this uncertainty? And why Lilly too? Relationships really can be irritatingly troublesome sometimes.
Oh, what time is it?
Oh. Takes me a second to remember Lily's clock doesn't have any visual feedback. I really should know, given how many times I've been in her room. Naughty boy. Nevertheless, I take my watch from my bag and quickly check it, the reason for her asking becoming clear. It's about 20 past 10, nearly curfew. Hanako rises to her feet, dusting herself off and neatening her gown after doing so.
I'd better be going then. Good night, Lilly. Hisao. Sleep well, Hanako.
See you tomorrow. With that, she walks to the door and quietly makes her exit. Silence. It seems to be happening more and more between Lilly and me recently. After a few seconds, I finally find something to talk about. Oh yeah, I talked to Muto on Friday and finally checked out some guides on college and how to apply for it.
That's good news. If you're going to be applying for colleges, I assume you have some idea in mind of what you might want to do in the future?
I think I've settled on becoming a science teacher. It's gonna take a while to get through university and everything to be qualified, but I think it'll be worth it. Okay, so he wants to go to teacher's college and then specialize in science. Good luck, buddy. Lily's face brightens considerably at the news. I suppose, with her wish to become a teacher, she's delighted I'd take the same kind of path.
So you've decided on a career of teaching. I think that path suits you most excellently, Hisao.
I smile and nod. This time, even if I know she can't see me doing so, I know she feels it.
I imagine Muto would have taken the news as well.
Blah, blah, what happened there? That's one word for it. Hey, Lilly?
Yes?
I know you want to be a teacher, but... For a second, I wonder whether I should really ask her the question on my mind. That's quickly brushed aside by the fact that this is rather late to have second thoughts.
Surely you don't think I'd be offended by something regarding my blindness.
Her accusing tone is betrayed by her grinning face, amused at my awkwardness in raising the topic. Some things never change. Good point, I guess. I was just thinking whether or not being blind would be a hindrance, what with your ambitions to be a teacher and all. She looks mildly surprised before giving the question some thought. I refuse to think she's never actually pondered this issue before.
I wonder. Isao, could you close your eyes for a moment?
Okay. Raising an eyebrow, I do as she requests. I have no idea what she has in mind, but questions only increase as I peek out from one eye. I'm just gonna make sure. Yep, that's still off. Good. Taking the black ribbon she usually wears in her hair from the cabinet beside her bed, she advances toward me while running it through her fingers to remove any stray hairs remaining on the piece of cloth. I suddenly click onto her intentions as I feel the black strip make contact with my face, wrapping around my head and over my eyes. What exactly is this for?
It's a little test, Hisao. Since you seem to be wondering, I'll let you see things as I do for a time.
Huh. So that's what this is about. To be honest, this actually sounds kind of fun. Childish and rather silly to anyone who would be watching, but a bit of silly fun never hurt anyone. I stand up with a heave, my hands quickly moving out in front of me to warn me of any obstacles. Okay, now what?
Now touch me.
If you say so. Now then. I slowly make my way forwards, towards the sound of Lily's voice. My walking speed could barely even be called a shuffle, the entire experience feeling alien enough that I don't want to risk inadvertently tripping over anything, such as her table or haphazard piles of books. Something soft yet solid brushes against my left leg. Further inspection reveals it to be Lily's bed. I move onwards, finding myself thankful that Lily's room is so neat and tidy. Even the piles of books she has are generally kept close to the wall, well out of harm's way. The hard wall pressing against my outstretched hands makes me furrow my brow in frustration. Hey Lily, where are you?
What are you doing over there? I'm over here.
Lily's voice comes from the other side of the room, far from where it was before, even to my untrained ears. If she's going out of her way to avoid me reaching her, damn it. If she's going out of her way to avoid me reaching her, then is this just a game to her? Of course it is. Compared to a life where even the concept of sight is an abstract one, a few minutes in a blindfold are nothing. I guess she's made her point. She's more than capable of navigating her room and further. I've seen how independent she is when compared to many others in Yamaku. Well, even if this is just a game, I may as well play it wholeheartedly. With a pace much quicker than before, I move toward the source of her voice, deftly sidestepping the table in the center of the room thanks to remembering its position. I've got you now. She gives an impish giggle, one just long enough to work out that she's passing just beside me. I quickly turn around to face my new The table wasn't there before! Ow, ow, ow. I slowly sit up next to the table, raising my blindfold as I rub my aching head. Give an irritated kick to the table, it's just sitting in front of where I fell. Utterly pointless, but the thing deserved it.
Hisao?
Lily's standing still just to my side, obviously unsure of what's befallen me. Sorry, kind of fell over.
Are you hurt?
My head hurts, but I think I'm okay. I think the table moved in order to trip me over. She giggles as she walks over and takes a seat beside me, her hand resting on my own.
I suppose that's the end of that then.
I think so. But I also think I get the point. Though I do wish it hadn't involved such a headache. Lily suddenly looks blank.
Point?
And I return an extraordinarily flat look. That was just for fun?
I just thought it might ease you up a little about the subject. You always seem to tiptoe around it after all. In regard to teaching, sight isn't that important. There are plenty of classes taught by entirely blind teachers, and more than enough resources for me to learn the subject. It's as simple as that, really.
I slump my shoulders and give a snort of amusement. Yeah, I understand. I guess we'll both have to work hard to reach our goals then. What is it? A little hesitation, Lily pushes forward her chin and closes her eyes in an unmistakable gesture. More kissing! I gladly accept, our lips touching. Om nom nom! As I do, I suddenly feel her hand snaking up my chest from underneath my shirt. The feeling of her hand against my bare skin is enough to make my heart suddenly accelerate. So she's in that kind of mood again? Well, I'm hardly one to complain. She does genuinely like this, and even with all my medications, my libido is thankfully still intact. Oh, good. I'm so glad the libido's fine. I lean in to kiss further, holding her hand tightly as I feel it tracing the contours of my chest. Eventually, we break off from one another, the room silent but for our breathing.
Hey, Hisao,
Yeah?
I don't suppose you could wear the blindfold again?
Her tentative suggestion takes me by surprise. I suppose she wants to introduce me to sex through her eyes as well. Or just wants to find out what I'll be like during the act while hampered by the blindfold. The measure of unease tempted by curiosity, I do as she says and lower the blindfold over my eyes. The world becomes dark once again. I reflexively tense as I feel Lily's hand gently brush the side of my face, entirely unable to anticipate her touch. I really need to get more used to contact like this. Even after the weeks we've been going out, it isn't as natural for me as it is for her. Silence? Hey, Lily. Shh. I obediently follow her instruction and quietly listen, trying to make out something, anything that's happening around me. Compared to before, when I was chasing Lily, the need to carefully navigate the room's obstacles is now gone. I can take my time and concentrate much harder on listening. It takes a while, but I can eventually pick out the soft sound of her breathing in the otherwise dead silent room. In, out. In, out. Measuring it against my own breathing, I realize it's definitely deeper than normal, especially for her. Another sound that makes its way to my ears, one that I can't identify immediately. I don't think I've heard it before, but my heart skips a beat as I realize the source, my hand almost reflexively reaching out towards it. Her face feels softer than usual under my touch, her head just barely turning in acknowledgement towards the fingers on her cheek. Sao. I gulp and take a moment to try and calm down. I need all the concentration I can muster while I'm like this in order to fully take in my surroundings. After a few deep breaths, I think I've managed to collect myself. With a touch so light that it wouldn't disturb a feather, I start to move my hand down her body. And I can feel myself losing focus again, thanks to those thin silken pajamas of hers resting so peacefully over the curves of her body. If she's like this, then that means she has to be sitting against her bed and facing me. Now to continue. Alright, this must be her hip. If I just move slowly downwards... The fucking shrimp again. To fill you in on what she was doing... I don't think you can figure out what she was doing against the side of the bed, breathing a bit deeply. She was having her own fun time. What it missed, Sao did in fact peek briefly. Somehow she knew, got him to put it back on, and then he starts to take the lead normally. I saw CGI. Okay. Or CG. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Yeah, so in this case, he's the one who finally decides to take the lead. For doing that at some point, so it makes sense. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so that's what she was doing. More. I want more. I can feel my chest tightening as I rock back and forth frantically, both of us entirely taken with ourselves. Nothing that unusual. Just need to take deeper breaths to steady myself. This feeling is just normal. This isn't... I can't... This pain is too much. He's either got his O face going on, or he actually is reacting to real pain. A mixture of both, I'm pretty sure. Stumble backwards from Lilly with unseemly haste, clumsily hitting the back of my foot against the table and falling to the ground with an unceremonious crash. Breathing wildly, I frantically scrape at the ribbon over my eyes as I lay on my back. I have to get this off. I have to get this off. For a moment, everything goes blank. As the rush of newfound light assaults my eyes, my breathing slows from the brink of hyperventilation. I'll try turning it up just a tad. Okay. Seconds pass, and I carefully measure out the rhythm of my heartbeats with every ounce of concentration I can muster. My heart is normal. It's back to normal. My body feels utterly bizarre as I lay dazed on the floor looking at the ceiling. The adrenaline from before is still pouring through my veins, but my mind is completely exhausted. prop myself up as I hear Lilly getting off the bed and coming towards me.
Sao? Are you okay? Sao?
I'm fine, Lilly. I'm fine. She gives a sigh of relief, her worried expression collapsing. Her face afterward is the very least I'd wanted to see from her. It's a face I detested when I first saw my parents in the hospital. When I first saw my parents in the hospital all those months ago. Pity. Lilly pities me. I just close my eyes and turn away, powerless. I feel like throwing up. I can hear the sound of Lilly moving away and quickly attending to herself. The ruffling of her clothing being pulled back on after a moment of searching, just barely audible. Sorry. She slowly shakes her head as she finishes buttoning up her top. Her kind smile looks so fragile, so delicate that it makes my heart sink. Approaching carefully, she feels out the edge of the low table before taking a seat next to me, putting her arms around my chest.
I'm sorry, Hisao. I shouldn't have pushed my desires onto you.
You don't need to apologize. I'd normally be fine. You've seen that much before. I guess I shouldn't have tried to push myself so far. My eyelids feel heavy. Calmly sitting next to her like this is probably letting the adrenaline work itself out of my system and letting my mind relax.
So that's why you never took the lead?
Yeah. I guess it's a good thing you like to, huh? The joke seems to lighten her expression a little. A fact which helps me feel less unease about my unreliable self. Lily's head comes to rest on my shoulder as I struggle to keep my eyes open, with more difficulty after each blink. I feel completely drained.
It's okay, Hisao. It's all okay.
No sooner does she say this than a small, quiet tune escapes her lips. Entirely too tired to think, all I can do is listen to her soft humming. It's a soft, almost melancholic tune. It sounds familiar, but the more I try to remember its origin, the less I seem able to concentrate. The feeling and scent of her head gently resting on my shoulder, and her warm body against my side are soothing. The soft humming of her voice, too, relaxes my mind as much as her warmth relaxes my muscles. This singular, quiet moment, after all the fracas, it makes me realize just how exhausted I've become. I can feel my eyelids slowly becoming heavier and heavier. Even with the chaos of before, I wish this moment would last forever. Lily and I together, sharing a single, solitary occasion together, just as we used to. But if that's the case, why does she feel further away than she's ever felt before? Okay. Whew. I'm gonna save there and call that for now. I don't think I can go on any longer, in all honesty. I'm winded, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry. But if I'm looking at this correctly, I am halfway through the rest of her act. So tomorrow, 12 o'clock, I will just push through and finish it. Because, yeah, honestly, I'm just at that point where I can finish it. Okay. Switch back to me. So again, thank you everybody for showing up. I appreciate everyone watching, lurking, and whatnot. So 12 o'clock EST tomorrow. We will continue with Lilly's route in Katawa Shoujo. I'm going to try to finish it off because I feel like I can do it. The Twitter poll for Monday's Viewer's Choice is going to be ending, I believe, either tonight or tomorrow. So feel free to get your vote in. If there seems to be a tie or whatnot, I will do a... Like, at the end of tomorrow's stream, I'll do a wheel decision. I'll do a wheel decision on what to do for Viewer's Choice. Again, the choices are 7 Days to Die, Star Wars Republic Commando, and Monster Hunter World. So, I hope everybody has themselves a great rest of the Saturday, and I'll see you next time.